chair because I didn't feel like I'd be able to see everybody. So, but I do need to stand up. So, in prepping for tonight, I have had so many overthinking, underthinking, rethinking, and I got a message. It wasn't 2 a.m. It was like 2:45. As the only other main chair I've done is the one that I did at my AA meeting a few weeks ago in March, for my birthday chair. And I knew it had to be different, but I couldn't figure out how. I have kind of done similar, but added some stuff, so hopefully it'll be alright, but yeah. Just a bit about who I am, to start with, from my childhood upbringing. I came from a non-alcoholic family. There was no addiction at all that I know about, anyway. Definitely not alcohol, anyway. Christian parents, Christian family, so I was basically born a Christian, although I think I technically made the decision when I was 4 to ask God to be my friend, as a 4-year-old does. But I consider myself a lifelong Christian anyway. So I have been showing signs of addict nature my entire life, I think. We were asked a question at the therapy day of who were you before the addiction, and I don't think there was a me before addiction. Not necessarily alcohol, but food, and it was the main one from childhood, definitely. And I have been a perfectionist since I can remember. Needed everybody to know that I was perfect, needed everybody to see me as complete, whole, exactly as expected. There was nothing wrong with me at all. I cared more about how everybody viewed me than I think anything else. Which actually did kind of help a little bit when it came more into the active addiction later on. But so I had an absolute paralysing fear of letting people down, especially my parents and anyone in power, to be honest, in my life. I have absolutely been so terrified of letting them down that I would show nothing wrong whatsoever, and this massively helped me hide all my addiction and all of my addictive behaviour, because anytime I did anything wrong, anytime I got drunk, I would just hide it and pretend it didn't exist. I ended up having the first sip of alcohol. I can't remember how old it was, but it was from my parents' glass of wine at a meal out at one point, because they didn't really have alcohol around. And I, at that point, developed an absolute obsession with it. I absolutely hated the taste, could not stand it, and yet I was like, I need that again. Don't know what it is, but I need that again. So every meal out after that, I persuaded my parents as much as I could to have more wine, because they didn't really drink, but I was like, I want to have a sip, and if you have one, then I can have a sip. From very young age, then the whole manipulation of others to get what I wanted. As I got a bit older, I started to steal any sherry and stuff and wine, dusty bottles on the top of the shelves that my parents think were given random Christmases from 10 years before or whatever it was. I'd steal sips of that, pour it into orange juice, have a sip of that whenever they were out and about, and top up with water, so if they ever did drink it. Don't know if they've ever found that out, but I was very, very strict with myself. It was something that I think partly took me a while to realise I was an alcoholic, because I never really got drunk to start with. I had a very strict rule, possibly due to being autistic, that I could not get drunk until I was 18. For some reason I was like, that's it, that's the rule, no getting drunk until 18. So the first time that I ended up drinking without any parental overview, it was at a sleepover with some friends in GCSEs, and didn't get drunk, but I did walk back through the kitchen as many times as I could without seeming weird to steal more mouthfuls straight from the bottle, because I couldn't show my friends that I wanted to drink more. So literally the first time available, it was straight to the secret, straight to the stealing, straight to the lying to others. And I'm pretty sure if I'd asked, I would have been allowed to have it, but don't know what it is about addicts, but that secrecy seems essential. I also found it was a massive help in social anxiety. I would often drink just to be able to actually talk to people, get on with people, make me interesting, And yeah, that was like a number one factor, like of getting drunk or tipsy, whatever it was, just to actually be able to have fun, basically. So then it came to my 18th birthday, and I was in a major depression, started about GCSE age. Mental health was in a nosedive. Didn't have any celebration for my birthday at all. The only thing that I did that I wanted to do to celebrate was go to a supermarket and buy a bottle of Malibu, and I don't even know if I liked it actually, I don't know why I chose that, but and some beer, and that was the only thing that I was vaguely excited about. Proceeded over the next few months to replace that bottle of Malibu about 3 times without my parents realising it was different bottles of Malibu. And yeah, just it seems a very strong thread in my life of how much I've kept secret and how much I've lied to people around me. Even my 18th birthday, my parents took me to Lion King musical. It's my favourite childhood film, absolutely loved it. Don't remember anything about the musical, but I do remember the interval I got to have a Coke and Malibu. And again, it was such a thing of my addiction just completely stole any joy I had in anything that I used to love. And that was the only thing I vaguely remember from that time. Getting a bit older, sorry, I'm trying to zoom through some of this because I do want to get to some other stuff, but summer before uni, I turned 18 in February. I knew when I was going to uni I was going to get drunk. I had absolutely certainty about that. And I was a bit scared about who I'd be while I was drunk. So all my friends from A-levels arranged to have this party for me where the entire party was get very drunk, basically. So I got some alcohol, lied to my parents about what the party was, went out, and thankfully it was at my sixth form college where one of them was residential, so we stayed overnight. And yeah, just absolute. Don't remember some of that. First time I ever got drunk, don't remember some of what actually happened. And that was also the first night I had a cigarette as well, and was so proud of myself for not getting addicted. And yet 10 years later, I now still crave them every time I smell them. I think I lied to myself about that. Didn't ever get into active addiction with that either, but yeah. And yeah, so I then once again manipulated my parents, told them I wanted to build up my alcohol tolerance. So please could we buy some packs of ciders that I could have one cider every single day in the months leading up to uni, build up my alcohol tolerance. When I get to uni I won't be getting drunk. They bought it, they bought me that cider, and yeah, absolutely was not the reason, it was just free alcohol I got, so yeah. And then I got to uni, and I no longer had the pressures of being this perfect daughter. I did not have any sense of I kind of went crazy, basically. I have a friend still who knew me from uni, and she would say that I was just absolutely insane, and what on earth was happening with me in the first 2 terms of the first year. I was on the most insane spiral. I was getting drunk I don't know how many times a week. I was lying to my parents again, put myself in risky positions, was at the clubs manipulating guys to buy me drinks, because it's really easy being a girl in a club. You get free drinks frequently. So, but yeah, and ended up, the number of times that I would tell my friends, I can't go out tonight, got some work I've got to do, or I've got an early lecture, or worst one, I had a wedding that I needed to get to and I had to train at 6:30 in the morning. Of course, got incredibly drunk at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was there I've got to go to the train station and I've got to cycle there in an hour. And yeah, being hungover on a train after not sleeping on the way to a friend's wedding was not and then having to lie to everybody about why I was in such a bad state that day. And pretend I was definitely not hungover. A very frequent thing that my parents would say is talking about nights out, they'd always say, as long as it's you dragging your friends home and not the other way around. So I'd just be yeah, definitely that way around, yeah. To be fair, with one of my friends it's about 50-50, but yeah. And I never I never picked up on any of the signs that was going on about this addiction. But despite that, I think I must have realised that there was a different way I thought about alcohol to everyone around me. Because I would want to, like if we planned a night out, I would be like, we're going on that night now. We are getting drunk tonight. And some of my friends would be like, oh, I'm a bit tired, I don't really want to go. And I'll just be like, what are you on about? We've been planning this all day, like, we need to go out tonight. And I didn't show them how much I struggled with this idea. But I think that the hiding the thoughts as well, I think I must have known there was something different about me. Unless I just thought everyone had those secret thoughts, I don't know. And every single drink I had, I don't think I ever had it for the flavour of it. I think it was always about how fast does this get me drunk. I had friends commenting when playing drinking games about, oh, you can't drink through a straw, you'll pretend that you're not drinking. And I was like, why would anybody pretend that they're not drinking? Like, I'm drinking through a straw because somebody told me that the reason that you drink through a straw, well, someone told me that if you drink through a straw, you get drunk quicker. So why on earth would I pretend that I'm not drinking? I didn't realise that that was not normal. At the end of second term, or start of third term, during that time my parents also found out that I got drunk. There was a time over Christmas holidays, I got completely blackout drunk, to the point my friends were contemplating taking me to the hospital. They didn't, but they did call my mum. So, and the next day got home, and one of the good things that my mum did actually do is how she responded to that. She gave me a big hug, told me she wasn't disappointed in me. It was a really nice response, and then said, at least this being your first time ever getting drunk, you're never going to want to do it again. Which, yeah, definitely was not the case, but yeah. So start of third term, I met my husband, and the timing of him arriving in my life was so perfect that it could only have been God. Because if it met me a turn earlier, I don't think I would have paid any attention to him. I don't think I would have been in this right state of mind to actually see him and reach out to him. But because he was someone who was very stable, he didn't drink, he was very calm, very patient, very good at listening, like not at all what I was wanting, like a turn earlier. But for some reason there was something about him, I was like, I absolutely trust you, and I need to be with you, and I need to be around you all the time. And the way I phrase it now is, he kind of became my new addiction, which it feels really weird to say, but it was a constant thing of like, I think part of that wanting to not disappoint people came back as well, and he was somebody that I wanted to be the best of. I didn't want to let him down, so because he didn't drink, I didn't want to go out and get super messy myself, and obviously I also couldn't get all the free drinks anymore, so but yeah, so thankfully, despite, I think, probably how unhealthy the relationship was to start with, it actually was the best thing, I think, that ever happened to me. And then I came home early from bars and clubs because I wanted to go home with Adam. I didn't want to stay out and get drunk. And my spiral stopped. It didn't, I don't know if it came up, but it definitely didn't go down anymore. It plateaued out. The frequency of when I drank decreased significantly. And when I did get drunk, I did still get completely messy, and I did not always treat him very nicely, like swearing at him, telling him to go away and so on, and definitely did not treat him very well. So I'm very grateful that he was so patient with me. But my thought processes and the whole something bad happens, I want to have a drink, like that never changed, that never ever faded. So over the next few years, we've nearly been together 10 years now, it'll be 10 years on Friday. So over the next 3 or so years, I still carried on using alcohol as a massive coping mechanism. Every time so my dog went through a really bad illness and got to the point of being put down, and every single time I came home from the vets, I would stop off at Aldi and buy a couple of bottles of wine, sneak them into the house, drink them at home in secret, and that was pretty much became standard every time I took to the vets. And the last time I got drunk was after I had a miscarriage and ended up again completely blackout drunk, and that was, until my relapse last year, was the last time I got drunk. And so then, again, nothing changed, but I realised that I had a problem. I didn't know it was to the level of alcoholism, like, I would never have said that at that time. But I was like, I want to stay away. We also started trying to get pregnant, ended up pregnant with Lily, and gave birth to her, so like I couldn't drink for those few years. But when I realised about being an alcoholic, I just said that I was a dry drunk for those few years. Because all of the thoughts, all the passions, all the same. Just not actively drinking. The first time I considered that it was a major problem, and maybe something I needed to do a bit more about, I was asked to go to a work conference in, I think it was in Manchester, and it would be an overnight stay. First time I've ever been away from Lily overnight, and my first thought was about that week was, oh good, I can get drunk again. Not, I'm leaving my newborn for a night for the first time ever. And I kind of immediately was like, oh, okay, there's a problem here, if that's my first thought. So the spiritual him a bit about it, but told me accountable, didn't get drunk or anything there. Which also, at work conference, didn't really think it'd be a good idea anyway, but yeah. At that point I still thought self-will was enough. I didn't think I was a big enough problem to consider myself an alcoholic. So I went to, 5 minutes? Oh, wow. So yeah, I went to took a few months still to get to AA. Tried AA on its own, didn't manage to get sober for that long, about nearly 6 months, ended up relapsing due to triggering situations. And I knew I had to try something different. That was about a month into actually coming out to my father's house, so it was like a bit of a crossover. But yeah, I massively knew I needed something different. And that's where our father's house actually came into an amazing rescue for me. Meeting Angela, having her disciple me through it all. And yeah, so when I was writing this, I was trying to figure out where on earth God was actually in all this. And I realised that God isn't mentioned at all so far, other than the meeting Adam, because God was so separate from my addiction. He was not present at all in my addiction. From my own choice, I kept him away. I would be in touch with God at church, Soul Survivor, like I would pray, I would sometimes read my Bible, not very often, but sometimes. And I knew myself, like I knew all the answers at Sunday school, every time. Like, nobody would have said that I didn't have a strong faith. Like, everybody would have said, yeah, she's got a really strong faith. And yet God was nowhere in my personal life. Like, he was so far away from me. And I kept him that way. I kept him very, very separate. And a large part of that is that I never ever felt like I would be welcome as an addict, or didn't consider that at the time, but as a broken person. I knew I had so many problems. I was like, there is no way that a church would accept me like this if they actually knew who I was. So, perfect place, all good now. And it was our Father's house that showed me that massively you are so loved and welcome as you are, and God wants that mess. And God knows that mess anyway, he sees that mess. And yeah, I have been on such a journey in the last year with God and learning where he actually was throughout my life. All the times I was on hands and knees, tears streamed down my face, begging him to save me. He was, just not in the way I saw and that I thought. And I was just blind to him entirely. And yeah, I am now, a year sober. Massively, and I would say, looking back, I have been so protected from God, with God. Like, he has kept me away from drugs, he's kept me away from anything harder than alcohol. If anyone offered it to me, I would have said yes in a heartbeat. I know that. And he's always put me in the situation I needed to be in, with my friends, with Adam, with my uni, with sixth form, everything has been so orchestrated by God to be exactly what I needed. And yeah, I just want to say thank you so much to God for being so patient with me. I was not expecting to nearly be crying. But yeah, so yeah, I think I'll leave it there.